So what do you make of all this news with the immunity? I want to start there. The Wall Street Journal reporting Mr. Weisselberg, a top official at the Trump organization, is going to get immunity. What do you think we should make of all this?
You know, I think it's pretty significant. First, just the fact that he was given immunity, whether it was as part of the Cohen investigation or something broader. He's a guy who would be pretty prominent and otherwise might be a criminal target. But I think he's gotten immunity because they see the value of his testimony for others, and certainly the president would be among the others. He's the CFO of the Trump organization. He's the one who signed off on the reimbursement to Michael Cohen for the Stormy Daniels payout, which would give him potential criminal liability. But just in general, once he's given immunity, he has to give it all up. And that seems to be quite a lot over the last many years, and just the sorts of things that the president has been very seemingly alarmed about over the whole length of the probe.
So as you're looking at this through your lens, I mean, I would argue this is about much more than just the infidelity and the women who are alleging infidelity. This could lead somewhere else, no?
I would really argue that too. Look, what Cohen said in open court is this was done for the purpose of influencing the election. The campaign finance angle is almost incidental. We have a fraud, a criminal conspiracy that maybe dates back to 2015 when there's an agreement with the National Enquirer to try to suppress these things for the purpose of, that's in open court, influencing the election. That seems to me very serious business. It's sort of, you'd have to go back to Watergate for a parallel of that nature. And just in general, you know, it could be wrong. There's been a lot of crises that so far both the Congress and the markets seem to have been indifferent to. But there is a feeling in the last week that maybe the dam is breaking. There are many different authorities that seem to be looking at different aspects, all of which apply pain, if not criminal liability, to the president. It feels like something of a conflagration to me.
Well, you know, I'm glad you brought up in terms of the little market movement as well as little movement in the political polls, because I look at these polls every morning, and you know, Tom Keene and I talk about this every morning. I mean, the base of the Republican Party is still very much behind this president. But when you look at the pace of this week, let's leave the politics aside. Let's look at the pace of this week with Michael Cohen, with Paul Manafort, and now with these immunity reports. It would suggest that the pace of the Mueller probe is intensifying. Does that try to gauge this for us? Where are we? When can we expect it to wrap up?
To wrap up, oh, not for quite some time. But it does feel like a breakneck pace, and I think we have reason to think that the pace, that the gallop we're moving into is going to continue. Mueller has just asked to continue or postpone the sentencing of Michael Flynn, and they have all the information from him they need, so I think that suggests they may be using him for cases that are around the corner.
That's smart.
The
follow up on that. How would they use
AG are new. Yeah.
Yeah. How would they use Michael Flynn? Yeah.
Well, it suggests, this is rank speculation on my part, but it suggests what was already happening, a development more on the Russia side of things. The indictment having to do with the hacking and GRU may now come home to U.S. actors, especially Roger Stone, potentially even Donald Trump Jr. But I think in general the rate of the probe is intensifying, and as you say, there's now the Manhattan DA as well as the New York Attorney General kind of getting into the act, and a sense of pressure from many sides, and people who, like David Pecker, like David Weisselberg, who have been associated with the president for many years and sort of know his MO and possibly where the bodies are buried, now having quite a lot of legal pressure on themselves personally, which is inducing them to have to testify broadly and widely. Once you get immunity, everything's on the table.
And we're watching live pictures of the president as he is boarding Air Force One with First Lady Melania Trump. They, of course, are departing and presumably will have a lot to talk about this weekend. But following up on this notion of impeachment, I was on Capitol Hill all week talking to lawmakers, and the Democrats really aren't saying whether or not they think the president should be impeached. They're saying we need to wait and see. If you're outside of Washington and you're trying to price this for what that type of political uncertainty, that political unrest means in terms of policy agenda items, as well as a host of other things, the issue of impeachment, while it would dominate the news, to have a conviction in the Senate is increasingly difficult. No?
Has always been extremely difficult. And I agree with you. There's been a kind of indifference from especially congressional Republicans for deeds that, at least to me, seem, very much of a piece with the things that the framers had in mind with high crimes and misdemeanors, but zero discussion of it. And I think you're right that even the Democrats are concerned about seeming over-aggressive here. And the leadership will damp down on any impeachment talks, talk of impeachment until after the 2018 midterms.